Hello, Lynn Watts here, and today I want to talk about friendship. And it's pretty much the beginning of school, at least here in Georgia. I realize some schools probably wait until after Labor Day to start, but at least here, schools started last week. And one of the biggest issues, I think, at the beginning of school is friendship. So today I want to talk about a book you can read and lessons that you can teach in the classroom to help kids negotiate this really valuable um, uh, uh, social skill, which is making friends, being a good friend, and all the things that go right along with that. So let's just dive right in. First of all, the book that I wrote about friendship is called Wyatt the Wonder Dog Learns About Friendship. And in this particular story, it's about a cat who you can see, everything's sort of backwards here. There you go. About a cat named Amy, who is new at the school, who has no friends and is having trouble making friends. And then obviously, there's also the issue that she's the only cat in a school full of dogs. So there's a lot of different issues here that you can talk about in the story. In this particular story, Wyatt is helpful in that he recognizes, and you can hear my dog barking in the background. It's kind of appropriate. We're talking about a dog story, but anyway, you can, Wyatt is very empathetic. You can certainly talk about that. He recognizes that she's having trouble making friends, and he is kind of concerned about what can he do. And so that's pretty much the rest of the story, is how he helps her feel like she belongs there in the school, and helping her join in with some groups and making friends. So that's Wyatt the Wonder Dog Learns About Friendship. Now, in my newest lesson plan book, which is right here, the cover is similar to my other lesson plan book, but you'll notice this is volume 2. All right, so all new lesson plans in here. Some of them have the same topics, obviously, because you can never give too many lessons on friendship. I think I did it every year, but in this particular book, there is a lesson on tools for making and keeping friends. It's called Friendship Builders. You can see it right here. Like all the lessons, it has the standards from ASCA for the lesson. There are essential questions. There's the objectives. There's a list of a lot of picture books that you could read about friendship. And there's a closing activity. So in the intro, there are several key social skills for friendship that you might want to talk about. And obviously, you can spend a lot of time going into these. You can pick one and just focus on it for the whole lesson. But here's some samples. You can do empathy. You can talk about active listening. You can talk about being a good listener. You can talk about conflict resolution, that all friends at some point have different conflicts, cooperation, respect. And then I have a whole activity section that has lots and lots of activities that you could do, divided up by grade, so some for K through 2 and some for K through 3. So let me just talk about one particular type of exercise or activity that I think you could do, and you could apply it both to the lower grades and also to upper grades, and that is teaching kids how to give and receive, equally important, compliments. I think that when we talk about making friends, keeping friends with positive words, compliments are a great thing to help kids understand. So one thing that I did in lower grades, kindergarten even, is play a compliment game. You would pick one child. They would usually volunteer to come up front. They would be the person receiving compliments, and then kids would raise their hand and they would select them and they would give them a compliment. You could have a limit, 3 people, and then someone else comes up. You could do that for the whole class, particularly somewhere in like kindergarten, first grade. Now, the important part of this lesson is teaching kids first how to give a compliment. Otherwise, what you have is every kid just says kind of the same thing. I like your hair. I like your shirt. I like your shoes. Very superficial kind of compliments. So what I did was I told kids that the best way to give a compliment was to say, I like the way you. And then they are actually talking about a much deeper kind of aspect of giving a compliment. I like the way that you share. I like the way you invited me to join in on a game. I like the way you helped me clean up. There's lots and lots of examples, for instance. So teaching kids how to give a compliment's important. And then the second part is teaching them how to accept a compliment. I would just have them say thank you, all right, or I received that, or I appreciate that. You can give them some different phrases that would be appropriate for them to say. So that's with the lower grades. For upper grades, kids that are able to write and express themselves in writing, you can do something a little more involved. Again, I would teach a lesson about giving compliments, how important compliments are, the difference between superficial compliments and really compliments where you are really expressing some feelings and some sincere feelings toward that person. And then you can, in order to make sure that everybody gets a compliment, which is going to be even more important, I think, as kids get older, you can pair students up, and their assignment is to give the other person a compliment. You can give them a strip of paper to write the person's name and the compliment that they have for them. They share it with their partner, and then they bring it up front, and you can make a paper chain with those strips that goes across the classroom. So then you have a nice visual reminder of the importance of compliments. All right. So there is just just one of honestly several different lessons on building friendships through positive words. There's a section in here on different scenarios. You can do role playing with kids about friendship. There's friendship bingo. There's a recipe for a friendship. And as always, there is a journal page where kids can reflect on what they learned in the lesson, and a review and reflect page where they, again, talk about what they learned and kind of score themselves on a scale 1 to 5. How good are they at being a friend? So lots of different ways to help kids with that really important, really valuable social skill of making friends. So as always, thanks so much for listening, and thanks so much for the very valuable work that you do with young children.